Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to class. And today we are going to just go over a few of the very simple features of the interface for Unity 3D before we dive into actually making a game. And as you can see in this setup here, okay, we've got a hierarchy over here on the left. We've got some stuff here in the middle, including a scene, a game, and the asset store. And then over here on the right hand side, we've got something that says inspector, and we've got services, and down here we've got a project, and we've got the console. Now, you do not have to keep this layout like this. In fact, most developers change it to meet their needs. In fact, there's no one right way to use this. Every time I see someone developing on Unity 3D, they're doing it in a different way. But if you want to change it, you can go to Window, Layouts, okay, and you can choose some of these different options here, like a 4-split, like so. Tall, okay, wide. You can customize it to your liking. For right now, we will leave it on the default. Okay, and you can even create your own and save your own. You can also take these guys here and just drag them over wherever you want, which is pretty cool. I'm going to again go to layouts, window layouts, and put it back on to default. Okay, and what we have here is the game scene. This is what you're actually seeing, or it's going to play in the game. So when you press the big fat play button, okay, this is what runs, and this is how you play the game. Of course, nothing's happening in the game just yet. And the asset store is where you can purchase assets for your game, which is awesome. You can purchase 2D assets, 3D assets, music, audio, particle effects, everything you can think of. And as of right now, it looks like the asset store is crumbing out on us, but it's okay. That is how you can access different things to purchase. We can, of course, right-click and close this tab. And if we ever wanted to open it up again, we can go to Window, Asset Store. Okay. And it's still struggling. In any case, it's not my fault, it's Unity. Do that enough times, it'll pop up if you want to load the asset store. It's also accessible via the web. You can type in Unity Asset Store on Google and get access to it. So just for fun, right now, what we're going to do is we're going to create a cube. So we're going to go to Game Object, 3D Object, and Cube. Game Object basically allows you to create things in relation to a game object. Anything that's on the scene is a game object. So I'm going to create a cube here. Okay, and I can hold down Alt on the keyboard here. All right, and I can get it to rotate the view. Okay, and as you can see over here, we've got these controls here. When I hold Alt, notice how it's switching to this and putting an eyeball. Okay, that's a hotkey. We can also move this around, so I can click these 3 different axis arrows, and we can move it around. And notice as I'm dragging it this way on the right-hand side over here, the Z is going upwards or forwards. This is a 3-dimensional game, so there's 3 dimensions or directions. So this is the Z direction, which presents depth. And so I can go backwards or forwards. Doesn't matter if it goes into the negatives. No, it's just a coordinate system. Simple math, like back in high school, where you'd have vectors and coordinates. Okay, it's just points on a grid. So that's all these numbers represent. Okay, we can also do the same thing with this axis here, the x-axis. Okay, from left to right, and those numbers are moving as you can see over here. And of course, we can go up or down. Okay, and as you can see here in the game, we now see a cube. Okay, how are we seeing this cube? Well, the reason is we have a camera in our scene. Over here on the left-hand side, we've got this main camera. Okay, if I hold Alt on the scene and drag around, I can use my mouse wheel to scroll out. You can see that the camera is actually facing the cube. And over there in the bottom right, you can see the camera preview, which is saying, hey, this is what's going to show up in your game scene. So notice as I move the camera, the cube appears to move, which is really cool. Okay. Go forward, make it look bigger, which is what I'll do here. You can play around with it however you want. I'm just moving the camera around. Okay, and of course you can click the cube here. We can move that as well too by moving this little block. And there's the cube. There's our little block in the screen. Okay, I'm holding Alt still to rotate, and I'm using my mouse wheel to scroll in there. There's a few other things we can do here as well. If I press E, I can actually rotate the cube. Again, at the top left here in these tools up here, I clicked the rotate tool. So I'm rotating it along the y-axis right now, this yellow one. I can also rotate it along the blue one, which is the z-axis, and the red one. Okay, and now they're all kind of rotating because they all have an angle to them at this point. So notice there's these two outer white lines, okay, and then there's the inner ones. Okay, the outer ones manipulate the entire object, the rotation of the object itself, whereas these are on certain axes or axes, or however you say that. And so there's some simple rotations. You can also scale. Okay, I just press the R key on the keyboard, and we can scale across any axis like so. And now our cube is no longer a cube. It looks like a table. Okay, so there's our little table there. Scroll out here and select the camera, and we can play around with some things, right, to get the shot that we want. We can even rotate the camera. So if I hold Alt to rotate the scene, and I hold E on the camera, I can point the camera down with the rotation, and I can move it up, and you can see a little bit more of our table there. Okay, so we've rotated it, and we've scaled it, and we've moved it around. Okay, and if you notice, as I click on these objects on the right hand side, there's different information over here. So when I click the camera, you see a camera. Okay, if I turn this off, okay, we can't see anything. There's no displays. If I turn it back on, there it is. And that's because the checkboxes next to these components, and components is the key word, ladies and gentlemen. If we turn off components, they are literally off. They stop working. Okay, and so here in our cube, which is no longer a cube, it has a few things on it. It has a mesh filter, okay, which is just the mesh itself. It's this cube, and it has a box collider. So it has a little collider on the edges. So like if you had a ball bounce on it or something with physics, it would hit it. So that's what colliders do. And then it has a mesh renderer. It's actually the renderer that shows what's visible. Okay, you can see the green box collider here, turning on and off. And the mesh renderer is actually what the player can see. So if we turn off the mesh renderer, the player will not be able to see anything. Okay, so these are components. And a game object can have one or more components. It can have many components, okay? And it can have transform component as well too, and most do. And this is also where you'll drag scripts onto your objects when you start writing code. So really cool stuff here. So all we've done so far is we've learned how to pan around the scene, or at least rotate around the scene holding Alt and clicking and dragging. We can also zoom out, okay, with the scroll wheel. Okay, you can click this little glove over here, okay, to pan. All right, and that the hotkey for that is Q, by the way. If you want to just pan the screen, we're not moving anything. We're just moving the scene. Okay, we're just our viewpoint as a developer. Okay, nothing is changing in the scene. And then if you want to select something, you can press W. Okay, so E is for the rotation, W goes into the select or the move mode, R is for the scaling. Okay, so really cool stuff here. And this is kind of cool too, this little transform tool here. Can just move things around for us nice and easily. I don't usually use this too much, and we'll talk about this later, but just a few simple tips and tricks here to get you started on your way. And we're going to call this video done now that you just have a quick layout into the editor. Feel free to play along with around with some things. Go into the game object, create some audio, create some light sources, create some 3D objects, 2D objects. Just play around with stuff, create some cameras, have fun. You can't do too much damage. If you want to save your scene, just press Command or Control S, and you can save the scene itself. If we close out of this at this point without saving, all right, then we're gonna lose everything that we just did here, okay? Which I'm okay with because I don't need any of this stuff. So that's it for now. Mark Price at devslopes.com. Let's go build a game.